Hi, everyone. Welcome to the special question and answer session with Aaron Marcus, America's premier acting and modeling career coach. Aaron, welcome. We're ready to get started with some questions.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it.
So this one comes from Ja and from DC, and the question is: I've been out of work for a while. What do I put on my acting resume?
Well, one of the things that's interesting with resumes, and it's a good question because a lot of people ask this kind of question. Can you put things in there that you've done before? Because I know you had sent me some information at one point letting me know that you had worked before in the industry and then you took a break. It's okay to have information on there that you did years ago, as long as you actually did it. So, feel free to use your past experience. And then as you continue to work in the industry, you can add new things to it and maybe start deleting some of the older things that aren't as impressive as the newer jobs. But, without a doubt, use the information from jobs that you've done in the past.
Great. So this is from Stacy. She's also from Washington D.C. and she says, "I often hear that and this is in the context, by the way, Aaron, from the Acting and Modeling Summit with one of the agents that you had as a guest. She says, I often hear that I should give two reads in an audition: the obvious one that we think the director is looking for, and another that is outside the box. Have you ever hired someone that did something really unorthodox?"
Well, first of all, just so that you know, I don't hire people just because I'm an actor and a commercial model. But if I were a casting director, here's what I would be saying to you. Don't try to figure out what I'm looking for. Really, for the casting directors, quite often they might not even know what they're looking for. So I would get rid of that concept. What I would do is think about what is the most interesting read. And if they feel like you're heading in the wrong direction, they might even ask you to do it again. Or if you want, you could always ask, hey, could I try it another way? And see what they say. And if they happen to say no, that doesn't mean that they didn't like what you did. They might mean that they really liked what you did and they don't want you to blow it by doing something that they don't think is accurate for what they need. So I would just go in there, prepare, figure out the character, make interesting choices, and read it that way. And if you do want to read it again, simply ask and see what they say.
Oh, absolutely. Sorry, this is from Jen from New Hampshire, United States. And she asks the question: does anyone recommend black and white headshots anymore?
I've never heard of anybody recommending black and white headshots in today's time period, unless there's a very specific look that you're going after. Um, but honestly, my feeling is go with a color photograph right now. Look, things could change in the future. Things are always changing. It used to be glossy, then it was matte, then it went to glossy again, and now it's really more of a matte finish, which is the non-shiny kind of headshot. So for right now, I would say absolutely get a color headshot.
Okay, great. This is Mary, Providence, Rhode Island, United States. She says, I'm looking for color that goes with my brand. Does this work? For example, I'm a happy person. Orange is a happy color with navy blue or purple. Purple and navy blue could be my secondary color. So I think her question then is, should you be, when you're going to auditions or go-sees or whatever, wear colors that tend to go with your specific brand?
Okay, well, there are a couple of different things. One is if you're talking about your headshot, I mean, you definitely do not want colors that are going to stand out too much and grab people's attention. The other thing too is, I think for any kind of audition, aside from the headshot, still I'd be very concerned with very bright kinds of colors unless for some very specific reason that character is screaming loud colors. Otherwise, certainly colors that match your skin tones, that will make your eyes stand out more, those are definitely good things to think about, but you really don't want anything that's too loud that grabs people's attention and have them look at anything other than your audition.
Okay. This is from Pat, Columbia, South Carolina, United States, and this is in reference to your conversation in session with Nancy Krebs during the Acting and Modeling Success Summit 2013, Aaron. She asked specifically, where in your mouth should we feel the vibration or resonance when speaking a standard, quote, American accent, unquote?
Yeah, yeah. When I was doing that with Nancy, which was really incredible, um, I was feeling things and she was agreeing. It was in the center of the roof of my mouth. That was the for the American, typical American kind of accent. And then when she was walking me through the upper class British type of dialect, I was feeling things more from the front of my mouth, the roof of my mouth. So those were the two differences.
Okay, great. This is Kristen, Raleigh, North Carolina, United States. She asks, can you have more than one agent representing you in the southeast of the U.S.? For example, one in North Carolina and one in Atlanta.
Yeah, well, it's all going to depend on how your contract reads with your agent. If you do have a contract, some agents' contracts stipulate that you can only work with that agent in that state, and what you do outside of that area, they really don't care about. Some contracts are more global, and they will say, any job that you get has to come through me. So first, I would make sure you understand the contract very, very carefully. I can tell you specifically for North Carolina, typically an agent in North Carolina will want you exclusively for North Carolina. And part of the reason, just so that you know, it's not because agents feel like they, have to own you. Part of the reason, probably the primary reason, is because some of the casting directors do not want to have actors submitted by many different agents. Because then that way they don't know which agent to call when an actor is being submitted for a job, and sometimes they'll just toss the headshot out because they don't want to have to make a decision and bring in somebody through one agent and not another agent. So what they will do is they will say, only submit one actor to me. It's got to be by one person. So there are plenty of agents, though, that are fine with you multi-listing as long as you're not competing with that one particular area. So I would just check out the contract and talk with your agent about it. But you might find that you're fine with having one agent in North Carolina, maybe one in South Carolina, and then one for Atlanta, Georgia as well.
Prem lives in India, the country of India. He asks, I have great experience in acting and modeling. Now I want to perform in Hollywood with great directors, co-actors, and co-actresses. How can I make this happen?
Yeah, it's hard. It's very difficult. It's hard for people who are living in the States, and it's even, more difficult for people living outside the United States. My suggestion would be is, it sounds like you've got a great headshot, you probably have a great resume, a great demo reel. The next thing that I would do is start contacting some agents in Los Angeles ahead of time and let them know, assuming that you are willing to travel to be in Los Angeles, and tell them you'd like to set up a meeting with them. And when you get some responses from various agents, then travel to LA with the intention of trying to stay. And you're going to have to work out arrangements with visas, with being able to work in the States. And also, the best thing is to have an agent lined up, or at least have meetings with agents lined up before you come to the States. But it sounds like you're doing it in a very smart way by getting a tremendous amount of experience with where you're living first.
Jerry from Fort Washington, Maryland asked a question that's a little similar to the question we had earlier, I believe. But there's a tweak here, so I'd like to get your feedback on it, Aaron. She says, I've been out of work for a while, and she puts in parentheses, a long while. And her question's about her acting resume. What does she put on it? Does she need to start from scratch? And if she starts from scratch, is that a bad thing, or should she put stuff on that she's done in the past?
Yeah, look, people understand that you have to start somewhere and that we're not born in this world with a great resume. But if you've had experience before you took a break, and it sounds like you took a long break, I wouldn't start from scratch. Not that it would be horrible, but there's no need to. If you did theater 10 years ago, 15 years ago, even if it was 20 years ago, you did it. So list it. If you did a TV show or you did some independent films 20 years ago, so what? You actually did the work. The key thing is you want to be very honest with your resume and don't make things up. So my thought is don't start from scratch. Just put down what you've done in the past. I would not date it, and that way at least people will know you have worked in the industry, and then you can make changes as you continue to get more and more work now that you're, back trying to get acting and commercial print work. Although for the commercial print work, you're not going to add that on your resume, but as far as the acting work goes, as you begin to get the acting work, start updating your resume more.
Okay. This is a really interesting question from Jackie in Rockville, Maryland. I've never heard this question asked before, so Aaron, I'm really interested to hear
Uh-oh.
your response. How can I unearth an opportunity to be an extra in an opera?
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit out of my ballpark just because I've never performed with an opera. But what I would do is this. I would contact the theater or wherever the opera is taking place and find out who does the casting. I mean, there's got to be somebody. I don't know if the director does all the casting or if there are other people involved. And that's who I would want to talk with and find out if you can be, I don't know if it's being in the chorus, or maybe there are even parts in the opera where there's absolutely no singing and it's somebody just walking across the stage. But I would go directly to the theater or the opera house or wherever it is and find out who does the casting of all the opera singers and all the actors in the project.
Excellent. So this is from Robert in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm guessing his question has to do with experience. He says, "What happens if an agent books you and you take off time from work because the agent tells you to, and then you never hear from the agent ever again? You lost money from taking off work and from not getting the actual production work."
Wow. So you're booked for a job and then you never hear from the agent again. Well, first of all, that sounds horrible. I'm very sorry to hear that. Look, there are plenty of times, not that you necessarily get booked, but sometimes you can be on right of first refusal, which means they are asking you to hold the date for them. You could be, considered for a job, you're put on hold. And typically, and that's one of the nice things about the union, if you are actually booked for the job and they don't cancel within 24 hours, I'm pretty sure the ruling is you get paid for the day. So I'm assuming this was not a union project. Um, that would be very concerning to me that you would have an agent that simply didn't get in touch with you. Now, I don't know if you called the agent and they still didn't respond, but that's not a good kind of relationship. That's not a good communication between the agent and you. And it might be time to look elsewhere unless the agent has a very good explanation as to what happened. But that really shouldn't be taking place when you're booked for a job. And I'm sorry to hear that that happened to you.
This is from Roy in Gastonia, North Carolina. He asked, what would be an appropriate type of camera to use for auditions? I'm guessing he's talking about at-home auditions, filming them. And then he asks about format, and he lists some different technical terms for high definition. So I wonder if you could address either, does it need to be in high definition or standard, Aaron?
Yeah, well, first of all, it doesn't have to be high definition. Um, I mean, I purchased a Canon camera, digital camera, that also has the capability of taking still pictures. Um, and look, I'm not a technical person. I went online, I researched things, read articles about what people liked about certain cameras. My price range, I think, was around $300, somewhere around there. So, I would do a couple of things. One is I would certainly do a lot of research online, and also I would go to a camera store, and talk with them and see what they have to say and tell them what your needs are. You don't need a super high-end kind of camera. You need something that will make your image very sharp and clear, so that you can easily download it and send it off. So that's what I would do, but you do not need to have a high definition camera.
This is from Danielle in Baltimore, Maryland. For roles that aren't typically my image, can I just use a candid picture of myself?
For roles that aren't your image. So I'm not sure if you're meaning if you're trying to audition for a role that's very different than what your headshot is showing, can you just take another like still picture and bring it in? If that's what your question is, I wouldn't do that. You want a professional looking headshot, and unless you have that kind of capability, I think it's going to diminish your look and how you're being treated and considered at the audition. What I think is impressive, even if your headshot isn't indicating a certain kind of look, but you can physically look that way, a specific way for that role, and you can wear the right wardrobe that will make you look like that character. In some ways, that could be even more beneficial to you because they can see, wow, she's really an actor. Here's the headshot. Never would have guessed that you could have looked like this during the audition. So, yeah, now there are some people that have separate headshots for different looks, and that's fine, but those are professional shots. So I don't know. Personally, I wouldn't go out and just, take a digital camera and shoot a different look just for a specific role.
Okay. Porth from Rockville, Maryland. How do you get into SAG, Screen Actors Guild? And are certain markets easier to get into than others?
Well, there are a variety of ways of getting into SAG. One thing you can do, and this is for not only just for you, but for everyone, you can go to sag.org and they will, tell you online all the different ways, but just very, very quickly, you can be a member of a sister union. Like if you are a member of Equity, then you can, and you have to, there are certain restrictions. You have to have worked like within the year. You've had to have had a certain amount of principal work, not just being an extra in a project. That will allow you to become a SAG-AFTRA member. You can also get upgraded on a set, and all of a sudden you become, they give you a contract. It's called a Taft-Hartley, and that will allow you to join the union if you choose to. You can actually audition for a union project and get cast that way. But they will only do that if they know that you are willing to join the union. The way that a lot of people do it, and as of this moment, it's still available, although it might change. And it's a little bit complicated, but basically, if you were brought in by the casting director and they have an open slot for a union extra that has not been filled, they can bring in a non-union person. You are paid union wages. You're treated like a union member. And if you do that 3 times, then you can join the union. So those are the ways that you can join SAG-AFTRA. As far as are there easier markets? Um, well, yeah, and what would make it easier is if there are lots of union projects happening in your area. So I believe that you're living in the Maryland, D.C. area. That would make it pretty easy because there are a lot of projects happening there. Certainly the major markets, L.A., New York, Chicago, Boston, uh, Louisiana, Atlanta. I mean, I know that there are Miami. I mean, those are some of the larger markets. Dallas has a lot of union work. as well. So yeah, the main thing is you want to find yourself in an area that offers union work. And then there are, quite a few ways that you can actually join the union. But just make sure that you're ready to join the union, because once you join the union, you're only allowed to take on union acting jobs.
Okay. This is from Lisa, Germantown, Maryland, USA. And this is in relation to your interview during the Acting and Modeling Success Summit of 2013, Aaron, with Kathy Lanassa, who moved with her two children to Los Angeles. Both of her children are in the acting and modeling industry, or at least they're getting jobs in Los Angeles. And this specific question Lisa asks is, what if you have other children? And this is, I think in general terms, you're going to have to answer this, Aaron, because you don't have this experience. But what if you have other children that aren't in the industry? How do you juggle them? They're interested in the industry, but they're not actually in it now. Age 10, 8, and 3 years old. Do you have any maybe general ideas for her, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, what you want to do is for the child that is interested, help them out with it as much as you can. And for the others, if they don't have an interest, then, supply them other things to do during the day. Now, as far as moving, if that's what you mean, how you deal with that, some people split up their families. I don't mean get divorced, but they just physically split up their families, and some people stay with, one parent, and the other, person travels with the child that's interested in entering the acting and or modeling industry. Sometimes they all tag along. Sometimes maybe all the kids go along, and the one that's interested in acting and modeling will pursue that. Maybe if the others are more interested in sports, they do that, or music, or wherever their hearts lie. So I guess the most important thing is not trying to push anybody into the industry unless they really want to. Look, I've got two children, and neither one of them ever expressed any kind of really strong interest in pursuing the industry. I was more than happy to help them along if they were more interested in sports. And so that's what I helped them with. And that's where we spent a lot of time doing travel leagues and intramural leagues and things like that. So I think the key thing is follow your kids' intuition, follow their goals, listen to what they have to say. If they're interested in acting or modeling, help them with that. And for the ones who aren't, find other things for them to do.
Thanks, Aaron. This is Bonnie. She lives in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, United States. Why are notifications about extra roles so often given only a day or two ahead? Is there any way to find out available parts further ahead of time?
That's a good question. The reason for that is because a lot of times the film or the TV show doesn't necessarily know specifically what they're going to be doing 2 days ahead, or they're so swamped with trying to get things done for that day that they simply don't have time to start doing things in advance. That's why the people who do extras casting, I don't know how they do it, simply because they can get a phone call today saying, hey, we need 200 people tomorrow. And then they get a phone call later in the afternoon. Whoops, this was supposed to be an outdoor shot. Looks like it's going to rain. Now we're going to need 30 people with very different looks for a library scene. So that's why things come out last minute. It's a hard business, and you've got to easily be able to go with the flow. So basically, I mean, the way the things happen is you have to be on the list for all the people who are doing the extras casting, so that when they do need people, they will call you. And it's true. I mean, a lot of times you'll get a phone call, today saying, "Are you available tomorrow?" That's just the way the industry works. So, I would find out who is doing the extras casting, make sure they do have all of your contact information to let them know that you are interested in doing extra work, and then hopefully people will call you.
Okay, great. This is Amanda, Escabana, Michigan, United States. If you do not have an agency, and I'm guessing she's talking about herself, what would be my first step in trying to find an audition for on-camera narrating jobs?
Okay. That's a very good question. Well, what I would do is I would find out, and there are lists that you can get of production companies. I don't know, I'm assuming you're not a union member, but I know in a lot of areas the union compiles a list of producers who are in the union, and that allows union talent to submit headshots, resumes, cover letters, uh, so that hopefully they can get industrial work, industrial films, educational films, or on-camera narration work as well. So if you're not in the union, still then I would try to locate production companies in town. Maybe the Chamber of Commerce in your particular area would have a list of production companies. Um, that would be a good place to go. The other thing too is I would be doing networking as much as possible, and there might be groups in your area where producers get together. I know there are some film and video organizations throughout the country. You might find some in your area. I know I've mentioned this before, Women in Film, which is a international company, and they have networking events where you can meet producers and people who are involved with casting on-camera, narration work. So that's what I would be doing. And in Michigan, there's work happening there. Certainly more than there used to be. So I hope you're able to find some good jobs.
Okay, fantastic. James from Silver Spring, Maryland, United States. Since I'm untrained, and this is actually, Aaron, in response to the session with Brian Dragonuk from the Acting and Modeling Success Summit of 2013. He says, since I'm untrained and inexperienced for the training, academies, and hospital standard patients work, what credentials do I need to begin with? Simply a phone call or photos and a resume or what? He's talking about role-playing jobs, I believe, in certain things.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually, and that was a very interesting session with Brian where he was talking about role-playing jobs where actors are hired to go into teaching hospitals and portray patients. Sometimes it's law schools and they are part of a jury. Maybe they are witnesses. Could be government organizations, could be FBI. Um, could be a lot of different organizations. So, the very first thing is you will need a headshot. People need to see what you look like. And I would also put together a resume. And I mean, even though it's a little bit different type of work, they want people who can act. So, not to say that you don't have those skills. Maybe you do. There are people who are naturals, and they are able to go in, they can improvise really well. So maybe you are in that category. So what I would do is first put together a great headshot and resume, and then start sending cover letters along with the headshot and resume to those different facilities and see if you can get some role-playing work, because it sounds like it's very interesting, and it's a good training for other types of acting work that you might do in the future.
Patricia lives in Port Allen, Louisiana, and she has a question related to the session you did on plus size modeling, Aaron, during your acting and modeling summit. She says, I'd like to know that if I'm borderline plus size and regular size, so she's kind of in between the two, can I still contact a plus size modeling agency? And if you know this answer, what is the dress sizes to be considered for each?
Yeah, I really don't know the specific sizes. I know there are some websites that you can go to. Catherine's website would have a lot of information as well. Really, the best thing to do, if you are unsure about whether you are plus size or not plus size, I would just contact some of the agents, and they'll be able to let you know because they deal with that on a daily basis. And I mean, I know there are certain specific dress sizes, but it varies quite a bit. So I really wouldn't be thinking so much dress size, because I remember when I was talking with Catherine during the summit, a lot of it is proportion, what your proportion is like, and not so much, how much you weigh and the specific dress size. So, once again, I would do some Google searches for plus size modeling sites. You will find them very easily. And then talk with some of the agents, some of your local agents, and see what they have to say. And they'll be able to let you know very specifically and very quickly what they are looking for and which category you best fit into.
Okay, R. Mills from North Carolina says, I had filmed a portion of a play that I had done back in college in 2009. Is there a way I can use the unaired, unused clip for use in my demo reel, and how should I label it?
That's a good question. So I can't answer that for you from a legal point of view, because I'm not 100% sure if there would be any copyright infringement. But here's what I would suggest. Look, when we use clips from movies, TV shows, TV commercials, we can use them on our demo reel without getting permission. So I'm thinking that might be the same for a play. The reason why I'm saying this is because you're not selling the any parts of the production. All you're doing is using it as a demo, a demonstration, to help show your work. So there's no money being made from that. So I wouldn't, and once again, I want to make this really clear, I'm not giving you legal advice, but I wouldn't think that you would have any problems editing part of that play and putting it on your demo reel. If you don't have a copy, I would simply just ask the school if you can get a copy and then edit it down. And then what you would do is, it's going to be very short because your entire demo reel will be somewhere between 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes, and that's it. So, I mean, typically you're going to have 15 seconds from any piece that you have, because people aren't going to want to sit down through and watch, an entire, long piece of, a minute or anything like that. So I would label it as, a school play, and you could even have like a little slate on the front showing, maybe the name of the director, your character, name or something like that. But anyhow, just, you can let people know that it was a school play. And personally, I mean, I would think that it would be fine to use it without worrying about any kind of copyright infringement, as long as it's used purely for demonstration purposes.
And Aaron, you would say that there's no problem in using a play to demonstrate your acting ability for television or film. I mean, like if you're going for TV or film
Yeah,
roles, is that okay?
that's a good point, Joel. Look, ideally, you want to use film and TV if you're trying to sell yourself in the TV and film world. If you have nothing else, I would use it. But once you start getting film, TV, commercials, political spots, those kinds of things, that's what I would be putting on your demo reel, because those are the areas of the industry that you're trying to get. I'm assuming that you're trying to get work in. And as you know, as a theater actor, it's a different style of acting when you are on stage as opposed to working on camera. And you could be a great theater actor and not necessarily know how to make the adjustments to, to working in front of a camera. Now, many people do, but not everybody does. So that's what they're going to want to see, how you would be in their project in front of a camera and not on stage. So yeah, I would put it in there, but as soon as you start getting other kinds of work, I would get it out of there.
Okay, great. This is from Tom, Laurel, Maryland, United States. I became SAG-AFTRA eligible recently. Should I put that on my resume?
Yeah, that's a good point. And just so that everybody knows, SAG eligible means that you did a SAG project and you are eligible to join on your next job, that you can do that. Yeah, I think it is helpful for people to see SAG eligible on your resume, so that way, or in your cover letter, so that way people know that technically you can do non-union and you can do union as well, but make sure that you know that you're straight on the fact that if you do another union job, then you are I'm assuming that you'll be a must join at that point. But yeah, I think it's helpful to let people know that.
This is Patricia, Port Allen, Louisiana, United States. If you're an older woman, how do you suggest I get started? I've already done commercials and had some print work.
That's fantastic. Well, you already have gotten started. I mean, that's wonderful. I would just continue to do what you've been doing. Um, when you say an older woman in the commercial world, that can be very helpful to you because in some respects, especially in commercial modeling, there's more. Now, once again, older is I don't know if you're saying that you're 90 years old or that you're 40 years old. I have no idea, but um, there's more work for women who are between 20 and 50 than there are 16, 17, 18, 20-year olds. Um, so at least in the commercial modeling world. So I would just continue to do what you're doing. Make sure you keep updating your portfolio or your composite sheet if you're getting more commercial modeling work. Update your demo reel if you're continuing to get more TV commercial work. But sounds like you're doing things just the way that you should if you're getting work.
This is Bridget. She lives in Dallas, Texas. She's got two questions about modeling, and they're pretty straightforward. So let me ask both of them. First of all, are open calls only for fashion models? And her second question is, what size composite card should I have made?
Okay. Open calls are not just for fashion models. There are a number of agencies that have open calls. So what you're going to do is simply check out their website and see how they want you to contact the agent. Some agents have open calls once a week, could be once a month, could be twice a year, could be never. But absolutely, that's a great way to try to introduce yourself to an agent. Um, for a composite sheet, they vary. Um, there is no set rule on composite sheets. Typically, you're going to find that they're going to be 5x7 or 6x8. I mean, the old rule was a lot of agents used to have bins on the walls in their agency, and your composite sheet had to fit inside that bin. So for the people who might have produced an 8x10 composite sheet, which is unusual, but some people did, it wouldn't fit in there, so that didn't work out too well. But not all agents have that anymore because so much is done electronically. So if you don't have an agent and you can't just ask your agent what size do you want me to have, then I would go with either 5x7 or 6x8. If you do have an agent, just simply ask them.
Okay. This is a little bit of a long question, but I think it's interesting, Aaron, and I'd like to ask it. Dave from Washington, D.C. asks, if someone is not willing to do things on screen or on stage that they would be morally opposed to, will that greatly hinder their chances of getting parts? And he basically clarifies that by saying, I'm not referring only to nudity or porn, etc. I'm referring to seemingly minor things, such as holding a cigarette even if not smoking it, or drinking wine even if it's only water, but it appears to the audience that it's wine, or saying questionable words, which most people don't think are really bad words, like shut up, crap, oh my God, things like that. How would you answer that?
Yeah, I mean that could be a problem. I mean, normally, if an actor or a model says, well, they don't want to support meat products, they don't want to support cigarettes, they don't want to do ad campaigns for those kinds of products, or furs, whatever it is, that's pretty easily taken care of. But it sounds like there are, a number of restrictions that you have, and that could be problematic. Um, and having said that, I really respect your way of going about doing this. And the important thing is, when a project comes up, you have to read this, read the script and make sure you're comfortable with it. And if not, just let them know that you're not. So, could it hinder? Yeah, absolutely, it could hinder things, but I wouldn't change anything. because this is your life. These are your principles. You're the one who would be doing these things. And if it goes against your morals or your beliefs, then absolutely say no to it. And look, the worst thing that can happen is you don't book those kinds of jobs. And I guess the absolute worst is the agents will, stop calling. And that's okay too, because you can always find your own projects, ones that you're comfortable with. And maybe you can even create your own projects that you want to support and deliver a message that you think is comfortable and that you want to express to the world. So, live up to your morals, and you'll be much happier.
Thanks, Aaron. This is from Samel in Richmond, Virginia, United States. And he says, how about when it comes to doing voiceover acting? Do the same rules apply? And I guess he's talking about regular acting, non-voiceover stuff. So do the same rules apply to voiceover acting that apply to non-voiceover acting? I mean, that's as much as I can get from the question.
Yeah. I mean, there are different things that take place when you are doing voiceover work than with being in front of a film camera. I mean, you've got to be able to make people see the story just with your words. And, sometimes it sounds very easy, but it can be very difficult. And you have to learn more about microphone placement. You have to know a lot more about your voice. You have to understand the message. I mean, yeah, you have to understand the message both ways, but when every single word is so crucial, and you might, especially if it's a very short voiceover, might be a handful of words. Those are very difficult to do. But look, good acting is good acting. I mean, that is the same whether you're doing voiceover work or you are on camera. I guess one of the trickier things though with voiceover work is having people be able to see things just with your voice. So I would say in that sense it's a little bit different, and it can be a little bit more challenging, but it's like with everything, whether it's commercial modeling, whether it's film, TV, theater, good acting is good acting no matter what the medium is.
Okay, this is from Jen, Virginia Beach, Virginia, United States. You mentioned in your Acting and Modeling Success Summit about getting a Google Voice phone number. So, and you mentioned, Aaron, you can go to Google Voice and sign up for a phone number. Yeah, googlevoice.com and sign up for a phone number.
/voice.
Yep, google.com/voice. Sign up for it. But her question is, when choosing a Google Voice number, does the area code that you choose impact anything? And her question is about people trying to find her in her home area. And I'm also getting out of this that, like, for example, is a New York area code better so people think you're in that area,
Oh, okay.
or Los Angeles?
I completely understand. Yeah, so basically, if you're living in, let's say Virginia Beach, you want to work in New York, you decide that you want to get a Google Voice number, but if you put in your zip code, you're going to get area codes for your Virginia Beach area, and is that going to be problematic with New York? The thing is, I think it's really important. Like, everybody does things differently, but I can just share with you how I do things and how I run my business. Trying to fool New York agents with having a New York area code, even though you're living very far away, it's not a good way to run your business because, well, for a variety of reasons. One is you're being dishonest, and the other is just from a practical point of view. If they call you, you're in Virginia Beach, and I really don't know exactly how far Virginia Beach is from Manhattan, but if I was going to guess, I'm thinking it's got to be at least 7 hours to drive it. It could even be longer, I don't know. So if you got a phone call today and they said, look, we need you here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., that's going to be tough to do. And especially if you're trying to do it on a regular basis. So to try to get, and look, there are ways that I'm sure that you could get a New York area code. Uh, but the fact is, it's not going to do you any good because you do live far away. So my thought is having a Google Voice number can be great, so you're not giving out your personal phone number and you just have all those messages forwarded to whatever phone number you want it to be sent to, whether it's your home phone or cell phone. But what I would do is this. I would wait until you are in a position where you can be much closer to New York, whether even if it's Philadelphia, whether it's New Jersey, whether it's Connecticut, I mean, someplace so that if you get the phone call, you can easily be there. So I really wouldn't be that concerned about it. And I also wouldn't try to hide the fact that you live so far away because it's going to be found out at some point. There are only so many times you can say that you can't make it tomorrow or you can't make it in 2 days, and then they're going to stop working with you, and then you've lost a really good contact. So I wouldn't be all that concerned about the area code. I would just try to get as much experience as you can locally. Maybe you can branch out a little bit more, head into Richmond, head into Washington, D.C., head into Maryland. All those are much more doable for you. And then maybe eventually, if you are, really interested in working in New York, then, start moving into that area. And then you can get an area code that's a little bit closer to the New York area.
Okay, Aaron, I'd like to get at least two more questions in before we wrap up this session today. This is for Lisa.
Okay.
This is from Lisa. She lives in New Orleans, Louisiana, which is in the United States. And her question's interesting. She asks, how much does hair color on a woman determine what jobs they're considered for? For example, are brunettes seen as more relatable to the everyday person?
That is a very good question. And sometimes it sounds so crazy where I've heard people going into audition for a part, more so for women than for men, and loved your they're told they loved your performance, but we're really looking for a blonde or we're really looking for a brunette. And the actor has said to me, I'll just get my hair color changed. What's the big deal? And even though I realize it's not a big deal, you realize it's not a big deal, sometimes they just don't want to bother with it, and they want the person with that color. So, I would say, yeah, I mean, it certainly it does make a difference. I think part of it is how you look with that color, because we all look very different, depending on your hair color. If my hair were red, I would have a very different kind of look than if it were kind of lightish, brownish, a little grayish. So I would pick the color that you think sells you the best, that makes you the most marketable. And I think that would be a really good question to ask a local agent, because they're going to know what that market is like and what types of women get cast in your particular area the most. So that's what I would do. And then once you commit to that, and that's the headshot, the color on your headshot, then you got to stay with it. Unless you can very easily change it, from day to day. But my suggestion is really ask your local agent which color, and maybe you can have photos taken with both colors. I'm not talking about having a professional headshot. Just have somebody take 2 different pictures of you, 2 different hair colors, and let some of the local agents determine which color will be best for you.
That's a great answer, Aaron. Thanks. So this is our last question for this session today, and it comes from Ramstein, Germany. Lyric asks, I have had 2 photo shoots, and each time the photographer told me they were experienced in taking headshots. However, once I got the photos back, I questioned if I really liked them. What should I be looking for when finding a good photographer? I'm very new to this.
Oh boy, that's tough. I mean, there are a lot of things that you can be doing. Um, Number one, before you decide to hire a photographer, a headshot photographer, visit the photographer's website. That's the very first thing. And you want to connect with a number of headshot photographers. One of the ways that you can go about doing this is I would talk with a number of different agents in the area and ask them which headshot photographers they send their talent to. But you can't just go with one or even just two agents. I would ask a number of different agents and then visit the headshot photographers' websites. And even if you know nothing about photography, still you're going to be able to look at the headshots and see, does the person look alive? Do they look interesting? Is there life in their eyes? Uh, are there things in the shot that are distracting to you? Look, you looked at your headshot and there's some things that you were questioning. So there are ways that you can look at a photo even without technical knowledge, and you will know whether it's a good headshot for you. So that's really one of the key things. And if you find some photographers who have headshots on there with people in your particular category that you like, then I would go and visit the photographer. And I would sit down and talk with the photographer and ask him or her, uh, what kinds of areas do you see me being cast in? And see what they have to say to you, and see how they relate to you. Do you feel comfortable with the photographer? Because the photographer could be a great shooter, but if for any reason they're making you feel uncomfortable, the session's not going to be very good. So find somebody that's giving you good suggestions, somebody who takes really good shots, somebody that you like, somebody that you can relate to, somebody that you can relax with, and somebody who's giving you good suggestions. What kind of wardrobe would be good for you, what kinds of colors would be good. And that's what I would do. Look, there's no 100% guarantee that you're going to walk out of there with great shots. When I do my workshops, I show a variety of slides from probably about 3 different sessions that I had before I finally got the headshot that I liked. And I was already very experienced. I visited a number of and paid a number of different headshot photographers, and for a variety of reasons, I just wasn't crazy with the results. It happens to everybody. So, if you came out of, the session and you weren't happy with the photographer, or, you just weren't happy with your headshots, don't beat yourself up. Don't think that you can't do it. Those things happen to everybody. But there are ways that you can prepare. And one other thing, once you've found the photographer that you like and you know what kind of shot you're going to do, you know what kind of expression you want to show, then practice it at home. And just get anybody. You can take a cell phone, you can take a digital camera, it doesn't make any difference, and practice trying to create the emotions that you want to show in your headshot. That makes it look, very warm and friendly and comfortable and inviting. And once you figured out how you can do that, then go to the session, and it'll make things much, much better for you. And if you ever get a chance, and if you are interested, I do offer a private coaching session. I do this online, and that way we can actually walk through that whole process, and I can teach you the technique that I use, and that will be very helpful to you as well. So anyhow, best of luck to you, and let me know how your next photo session goes. I'd like to hear it.
Aaron, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much again for answering so many questions. I know I learned a lot. I'm sure our guests that are listening and have learned a ton of information, a ton of advice from you, which is even more important than information because you have years of experience behind the information you give out, which is really advice driven. So thank you so much. I just want to mention a few things before we wrap up for the day. We had mentioned a few times in here the Acting and Modeling Success Summit of 2013. We actually posted a few free sessions for you to watch on the website, and I'm going to give you that link right now. If you just like to watch some sessions from that, there's several posted there, and also you can download the entire workshop or the entire summit as well by ordering it there. Go to howtoactandmodel.com/summit 2013. So that's howtoactandmodel.com/summit 2013, and you'll be able to get some access to that. Also, if you are just really wanting to take your career to the next level, we have a Facebook page. It's facebook.com/how to model. It's a growing community of other actors, of other models, of agents and directors and producers. And obviously, Aaron is in that community as well, giving advice and feedback and really interacting with you there. It's facebook.com/how to model. Become a part of that community, like the page. Pay attention to the updates. There's all sorts of great information coming out there, and really get into that community. It's growing and it's building, and we want you to be a part of it. Howtomodel.com has all of Aaron's information. You can find out all about his book, about upcoming workshops, both in person and online, about his private one-on-one coaching, about everything he offers. It's howtomodel.com is his website. I just mentioned private one-on-one coaching, and man, is this a great opportunity for people, for actors and models who really want to spend time with Aaron one-on-one over the internet, going through their personal needs where they are in their career. So it doesn't matter where you are in your career. If you want to go to the next level, Aaron has the ability to sit down with you one-on-one, focus in on your needs, on your headshots, your resume, your comp card, wherever you are in your career, and help you get to the next level of what you want to do and what you want to accomplish. If you're interested in spending some time one-on-one with Aaron, he has a few spots open every month. Send him an email. It's aaron@howtomodel.com, AARON@howtomodel.com. In the subject line, make sure you put private one-on-one coaching or private session so he knows what that is. And he'll give you more information about how to set up one of those private one-on-one coaching sessions. Aaron, thanks again for spending time with us. This has been fantastic. We're looking forward to more great content, great advice from you. And this has been fantastic. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. I told everybody that as, questions came in, I made sure that I would answer all of them. And so I'm keeping my word, and glad I was able to do this.
Thank you so much, Aaron. And good night, everybody. Talk to you later.